James here from GoodGuitarist.com, and in this lesson I'm going to show you how to play American Pie by Don McLean, which is probably one of the most famous guitar strummers ever. It's a super long song though, so I don't recommend this as your very first tune. I recommend that you are able to play through a few before you try to tackle this one. So just a quick overview, there's basically 3 sections. There's the intro bit, which happens one more time. There's the second verse, which like 4 of the verses are like that. And then there's the chorus, which is the same every time. So there are 3 parts that we have to learn, and each one is pretty long. If you need any help following along with it, I do have the chart that I'm using right now to make this lesson. I have that available on my Patreon. I'll put a link to that down below. Otherwise, you could just kind of look at the chords at the top of the screen and write them down as it happens. I do think you're going to need some form of visual aid to help you with this one. Anyways, we're going to start this one with the chorus because that's the simplest part. We're going to need a few chord shapes. We start off with G, and then we have C, back to G, and then D. And if you need any extra help with those chord shapes, there's my free ebook, my complete beginner's course that'll help you build up your chords and strumming, your switching, all the fundamental skills. It's not about showing you the information. It's about showing you how to take that stuff that you already know, all those chord shapes and strumming patterns you've already learned, and actually be able to do it so that you can play a song, put it all together without dropping any beats and all that stuff. Anyways, we're gonna start on our G chord, and we're just gonna do 2 downstrokes, and then 2 downstrokes on C, back to G, and then D. It's just that little progression. G, C, G, D. Miss American Pie, drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. And them good old boys drinking whiskey. And now we're gonna go E minor, be the day that I, A7. And for that switch, from the E minor chord, we can either leave our middle finger down and do that. So if you play E minor like I am right now, just leave your middle finger down, and then you put your ring finger down on the 2nd fret. That gives you A7. Easy switch. So we're on the A7 chord, we just strum it. Back to E minor. This'll be the day that I, and then D. Later on, we're gonna spruce up that D with like a, but for now, we're just gonna do that D chord with our strumming pattern, and this is actually the perfect time to learn how to strum this tune. If you listen to the song way later, near the end, the last chorus, when it's just him strumming, you can hear the strumming pattern super clearly, and it is just, it's just down, up, down, up. Now, this brings up a really important point. A lot of people are like, hey, what strumming pattern do I use for this? What strumming pattern do I use for that? But the truth is, if you didn't play guitar, if you played another instrument like piano or whatever, you'd still have to have some sort of rhythm that matches the song. And that's actually the more important part. They call that the groove or the feel of the tune. Now this song feels like, so it's just down, up the whole time, but on beat 2 and 4, we're accenting those downstrokes. So we're playing them a little bit louder. So it's like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, so just make 2 and 4 bigger. I recommend just going like this and then saying the counting and saying 2 and 4 louder. It'll make you play louder. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Alternatively, you could just play the most common strumming pattern ever, just down, down, up, up, down, up. That works wonders. If you need help with that one, I have a whole video on it. I'll put a link to that down below. So choose your strumming pattern. I recommend doing down, up on everything. Not only does it make it simple, but it lets you work on accenting those beats and starting to pick up a feeling. Don't get all distracted by the down and up strokes and all that stuff. Work on getting the groove, the feeling of this song. Anyways, what I want to do now is put that strumming together with the chorus. So let's put the whole chorus together. It's going to go like this. So I'm just going down, up on each shape. We repeat that progression 3 times, and then when we get to the E minor chord, this'll be the day that I die. We actually just strum it once and count it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then our strumming pattern again. So as long as you count it out, this should be no problem. Let's try that nice and slow. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. And them good old boys drinking whiskey and rye, saying this'll be the day that I die. 2, 3, 4. This'll be the day that I die. And 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and from there we would go into the verse. So I want you to play it like that, and as time goes on, you'll be able to kind of miss some of those strokes. So you won't be down and up the whole time. You'll be able to. So you see, I'm kind of just pulling back and just like ebbing and flowing. And the more comfortable you get, the easier that is to do. I don't recommend just memorizing strumming patterns and how to do that, because it kind of defeats the purpose of learning to like generate the rhythm. Guitar's a rhythm instrument. You gotta generate it. It's not about down and up strokes. It's about feeling the rhythm. So focus on just down up the whole time. It's my biggest piece of advice for this whole song. So there's so much other stuff that we have to cover. Now let's take a look at the second verse. And that's the part where the rhythm picks up and the whole band comes in. We're gonna learn this in 2 parts. First, we're gonna need our chord shapes. There's G, A minor, C, E minor, D, D over F sharp, and A7. To work out all the switches and make sure that we know all the chords, let's do downstrokes only first. Starting off on G, 1, 2, 3, 4. Two strokes, 2, 1, 2, 3, from James Dean. Now the one part that you might have trouble with is that part. So let's just work that out. We have our G chord, and then I'm going to pivot off my ring finger, put my first finger down on the 2nd fret of the thickest string, and then just finish up the shape that way, and then go into E minor. And just practice that a few times. G, pivot, D over F sharp, E minor. And once you can play through, like we just did, downstrokes only, we can add some strumming to it, and the strumming's super easy. Just accent beats 2 and 4, otherwise it's just down, up the whole way. Let's try this. Remember to count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Did you write the book of love, and did you undo the stars above? So if it doesn't sound great for you yet, just stick with it, and after a while you'll be able to feel a bit looser. Once you've memorized like the billion chords that this song is made up of, you'll be able to relax a bit and get that strumming to sound relaxed. Anyways, next we're going to learn the second half of this verse. That requires one more chord shape, G over B, and it's good to learn it in context. We're going to be playing So we start on C, then we go to G over B, and this is like your G chord, except you don't bother putting down your middle finger. You just have your index finger there, and it's lightly touching the underside of your thickest string to mute it. And then A minor. So work that out a couple times. C, G over B, A minor. When you add the rhythm, it'll be. So 2 beats. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now let's just go through the chords, starting off on E minor, downstrokes only. 1, 2, 3, 4. And as far as the rhythm goes, starting off this half, we're just going to do a downstroke. Then our strumming picks up again here. Let's just put that in context just so you can see what I mean here. This is the second half of the verse with the strumming. 3 and 4 and do do do. So I recommend practicing each of those halves for a while. You know, spend like the rest of this week or whatever, depending on how many songs you've learned. You know, the more songs you learn, the faster you can learn songs, right? But spend as much time as you need on that. And when you're ready, we can put that whole verse together with the strumming. Let's try it out, starting off on G, nice and slow. 1 and 2. Did you So there's only one other major part for us to learn, and that's the very beginning, the intro, which also happens right before the final chorus, like 7 minutes into the song. Now, this intro is rubato, and that means it's in the player's own time, so you can kind of just pause and take breaks. And that seems like it's going to be easier. You just get to pause as long as you want. But the thing is, it's really tough to start to feel it. You have to really have all your chord shapes, all your strumming, all that stuff totally down pat so that you can focus on the ebb and flow of time. It's really hard to stretch time. So for now, let's actually do it rhythmically. It's still going to have lots of space. It's still going to feel basically the same, but we're not going to do any of those little slowdowns. You're welcome to practice along to the recording and copy Don McLean. When he recorded it, they nailed it. So practice with the original recording. It's going to do much more than practicing off of me, practicing off of the recording. Skip the middleman. But let's learn the components. Let's learn what to do so that you'll be able to do that. Once again, we're going to divide this up into 2 parts. First, just going through the chord shapes. There's no new chord shapes here, by the way. You've already learned them all. Let's just go through them in order, starting off on G, 3, 4. A long, long time ago, I can still remember when that music used to make me smile. And I thought if I had the chance, I could make those people dance, and maybe they'd be happy for a while. So there's nothing too tricky there. You just count the slashes and just go with it. You might have to go back and write it down, or you can just download the chart off Patreon, but just have it written down, follow along, and do a downstroke for every slash. That'll get you the timing of it. The second half, same thing. Let's try it. 3, 4. Their responding made me cry with everything that I delivered. Bad news on the doorstep. I couldn't take one more step, and the man that I admired most fallen out and down, 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 down. The day the music died. So work on each of those separately, because now we're going to put them together. And when we add the rhythm, it's actually going to be super simple. Every time the chord switches, you strum once, and that's it. So let's try this through the entire verse 1/intro, whatever you want to call it. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There were bound down, but something held me deep inside. I get 2, 3, and then we start the chorus. So with what we've learned so far, you could play through the entire tune pretty accurately, but there are some finishing touches we can add that'll just, really finish it up. So the first one I want to take a look at is on the D chord. We can do a really cool riffy sort of thing. Now that seems kind of tricky, but it's super duper easy as long as you count stuff out. The strumming is just this, just like the rest of the tune. First, we'll start off with our D chord, and let's just go through the switching of the shape. We do a normal D, then we lift up our middle finger, then we put it back, then we put our pinky down on the 3rd fret of the highest string, and And then we go back to the regular D, and then open, and then regular D. So if you just look at the top string, this is what's happening. And I recommend just taking a second to make sure that you can do that. So have your D shape, but just pluck the top string and go. We're just traveling up and down, just back and forth. You know, work it out, take your time. And now it's just a matter of adding some rhythm. We just have to count how many strokes we do before we switch. We start off on our D chord and we do down, up, down. And now from here on out, it's up, down every time we switch. So up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and then up, down, up. So let's go through it ultra slow a few times in a row. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. And once you're feeling pretty good with that, we can insert it into the song. And there's 3 points where I would put it. The first is at the very end of the chorus. So, you know, we play our G, C, G, D thing, and then we have this'll be the day that and I would put that in right here. I'll play through the entire chorus just to demonstrate that and give you a chance to play along. We'll do it nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bye, bye, Miss American Pie. Oh, my Shirley to the limit, at the lemon is dry. Them good old boys saying this'll be the day that I die. This'll be the day that I die. And then we go into the second verse, and there's another spot where we can put this. Coming up here. And another one. Here. So remember, 3 steps. First, just getting the order of changing it, and then adding the strumming. 1, 2, 3, up, 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 down, up. And then finally trying it in the song, you know, because once you learn it, you gotta actually use it. So now that we have all the components, let's figure out how to assemble this whole thing. So we start off with that, you know, nice slow intro. Then we have our first chorus, and then we have our second verse, which is where the rhythm picks up. And those 3 parts constitute the entire tune. From this point, we would do our chorus again. We'd do the third verse, which is the same as the second verse. All the rest of the verses are going to be the same as the second one. And then we have another chorus, 4th verse, another chorus, 5th verse, another chorus. And now the 6th verse is actually the same as the intro. Once again, it slows down. And just before it, in that 5th chorus, instead of strumming the D at the end, we can just do this and let it ring out. So going into that 6th verse, we would go, this'll be the day that I die. This'll be the day that I die. And we just let it ring out, and then we go. And then finally, after that part, we have the 6th and final chorus. We're gonna do it once, just like we normally do, And then we're going to repeat it, which up until this point, we never repeat the chorus. This is the first time where we repeat the chorus. And as we repeat the entire chorus, the ending is going to be a little bit different. I'll just play through the whole thing for you just to make it simple. So, bye, bye, Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. And them good old boys drinking whiskey and rye, saying this'll be the day that I die. So instead of going to that E minor A7 thing, we just go C for 2 beats, D, then G, C, G. When it comes to memorizing this tune, I think the first thing I would do is go to the chorus, and just learn this part right here. You can think about it in 2 parts. There's basically the G, C, G, D thing, which is the same chord progression as the verse to Brown Eyed Girl. It's in a bunch of stuff, you should definitely be good at that. You do it 3 times, so that's the first part of it. And then the E minor, A7, E minor, D bit, so just memorize it in those 2 parts. Get the chorus down first. And then the next thing I would do is take a look at verse 2, because that's probably the most complicated. First of all, there are very few patterns. Normally there would be like some, 4-chord progression or something that happens over and over again. But here it's pretty much like a string of chords. There are certain patterns that you can see. This would be the first phrase, and then this would be the second phrase. And if we compare the two, well, they both start off with G, and they both have like an A minor and C thing, I guess. But this one has an extra A minor. And at the end, this one goes E minor, D. This one goes E minor, A7 and D. So I guess that's similar. But not enough to be like, oh, this is clearly the same thing. Repeat that. There's none of that. You do have to memorize these as 2 separate entities. And in order to memorize this one, I recommend doing it phrase by phrase. So just follow the words. Did you write the book of love? Do you have faith in God above? If the Bible tells you so. That's one phrase. That's a statement. So maybe you work on that for a week, maybe a day, a month, however long it takes you, wherever you're at with music. And then for the second half, it starts off, gives you a bit of an easy one, just going between E minor and D. That's pretty memorable because it's so much different than the rest of the tune. You'll remember that. And then here, once again, there aren't too many patterns. For the entire verse 2, I recommend going through it like this. Phrase 1, phrase 2, phrase 3, so learn this all together, starting with the slow part and then working your way into this. And then finally, ending it off with this. All in all, your best bet is going to be dividing this up and pretending that it's 5 little songs. The intro is actually quite similar. It's not exactly the same, but it does have a lot of those same things, like the G, D over F sharp, E minor thing. That happens a lot in verse 2, so you'll already have worked on it. But there still isn't enough of a pattern. It's not like this part is exactly in verse 2. Maybe these little bits would be, but never like a big enough chunk. So once again, you got to remember it in phrases. And this one, I would just do each line. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So ultimately, it's not so much about figuring out some trick for memorizing. The trick here is going to be in how you do it, taking it phrase by phrase. Otherwise, you could just print off a chord and lyrics sheet and follow it. And, after a while, you'll probably start to memorize it that way just by doing it so much. But if you kind of want to hack it, I recommend going through it in phrases and just, doing 1 a day or 1 a week or whatever pace you can go at. Now that we've learned everything, let's just practice putting it all together. A shortened version of this song. Starting off on our G chord, nice and slow. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Something held me deep inside the day. The music down, 2, 3, 4, 5. Miss American Pie. And normally it speeds up here, but we'll keep it nice and slow. So that's how you play American Pie by Don McLean, one of the most essential strummers. If you need any help with the stuff that this song's made out of, chord switching, rhythm, that kind of stuff, I have my complete beginner's course. I also have a bunch of other resources, my free ebook. I'll put links to all that stuff down below. And if you need any extra help, you can always ask. Anyways, have a good time and I'll see you later.